Hello, everyone. I am Claudiu Murgan, the host of the Spiritually Inspired podcast, and my guest today is Lily Nova. Lily is a UFO and space photographer, contactee, C5 practitioner, cosmic channel, and psychic. Her story and UFO footage have been featured on the Travel Channel, mainstream media news all over the world, including the popular Lad Bible and the Mirror, and on Coast to Coast with George Noory. UFOs began visiting Lily during COVID while out shooting space photography. She began documenting these close encounters with her camera, determined to capture evidence and discover who these visitors were. As her experiences progressed, she learned about these otherworldly beings and how to initiate contact with them. She discovered they were her star family and that she was from the stars, here on an important mission during the Great Awakening. These beings taught her how to activate her dormant starseed DNA, psychic gifts, and healing abilities. She now uses these gifts to channel messages, DNA activations, and healing, and teach others how to have profound spiritual experiences on her YouTube channel. Lily, thank you very much for joining me today.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So, based on what I read about you, your activation started in 2019. How was your spiritual life and belief system prior to that?
Oh, well, I didn't really like religion growing up. So I always felt that it was just had like kind of like an inner anger against it.
Yeah, we
I
all
felt
have that at one point in our life, for sure.
Yeah, even at a young age, I felt that it was corrupt and I just didn't like the feel of it. So I was drawn more towards Buddhism. So I would kind of study the philosophy a little bit. I wasn't like super into it, but I was called to that. And I knew that there was something out there. I believed there was something out there, but I had no idea what. And I wasn't a big UFO person or anything like that. So I was kind of like a clean slate whenever this started happening. I was open to it, but I didn't know what was going on. It was like a big mystery to me, but I've always felt drawn to the stars and, wondering what is out there and what is life.
Yes. And did you go deeper into Buddhism or Hinduism and any other, not say religion, but the spiritual path, which could have, given you much more perspective to life?
Yeah, I didn't pursue it that much. I mean, I was aware of the chakras. I didn't like work with them, but I was aware of them. And I have like a little Buddhism book where I would occasionally read like messages from Buddha. So that was the extent of it. And I wasn't like meditating every day. I wasn't, talking to Buddha or God or source or anything like that. It was very surface level.
Yeah, so the universe had a different path for you and different messages.
Yeah.
So, since the encounters, how exactly your psychic abilities increased?
That's been one of the most mind-boggling parts, really. So I've always been intuitive where, and I think everybody's intuitive. Some people are more so than others. You may walk into a room and you feel like tension or bad energy, or you meet somebody and you're like, I don't have a good feeling about them. Like those are our psychic abilities. So I was always, had a pretty good judge of character and like that. But once the UFOs started showing up, I started receiving visions. I started seeing all of these signs and synchronicities. I started just seeing things a lot. Like some people feel things, but for me, I was seeing all sorts of crazy things. I thought I was crazy at first, but it was just my psychic abilities opening up very rapidly. So then I began meditating and I began having profound experiences with angels, with Jesus, with different extraterrestrials, all of these things. So it's very vision heavy for me.
So, in other words, you can translate these messages because I encounter other people where they get downloads and they don't know how to interpret these messages and decode them. So, in your case, you're quite lucky that they were very easy for you to understand and put them in practice.
Yeah, it took some practice, but yeah. I do sessions for people where I will talk to their guides or their higher self or source, and then kind of get like step-by-step answers as to what will help them on their highest path. So I've gotten pretty good at translating, but it definitely took some practice. There were months there where I was meditating all day, every day for months. That's all I did for months. I wasn't working. All I was doing was meditating. I don't do that as much anymore, but for a while I was in training. I call it boot camp, spiritual boot camp.
So you passed all the tests. And so which one is your star family?
So I have multiple star families, and all of us do, especially anybody who feels drawn or open to this. The first ones that I saw were, they had light blue skin, and it was this light blue skin woman, but she looked very human. She looked basically like if you were to take me, dye my skin light blue, and then shave my head, that's what she looked like. She was very, very beautiful. And I saw, so that was the first one that I saw, and she appeared after a UFO appeared. And there was somebody else there to witness this with me, so I wasn't alone. And my friend suggested, let's close our eyes and see if we can get any information that way. And this is, in that moment, she actually taught me what a download was. So I closed my eyes, and then I received a telepathic vision of light and energy going in through the top of the head, which I didn't know what that meant at the time. And then I realized it was a download, like you're receiving information. And then she showed me the female with light blue skin, in a silver skin tight uniform, almost like Star Trek like uniform, and then 5 crewmates behind her with light blue skin also. So I later found out that she was from the Lyra constellation. And then after that, I started meeting beings from Sirius, who I also am connected with. So I have some Sirian star family, the star Sirius, and the Nordic beings from the Pleiades star cluster. I also have connections with them. So those are my 3 main star families I communicate with.
Wow, you're quite spread out intergalactically. That's nice. And I know that when someone is in training, that person encounters some physical discomfort because, the vibration is different, and then the body and the mind has to adapt to the vibration and to the decoding. So did you feel any physical discomfort during this time?
Oh, definitely. There were days where I just meditated all day and night. And then there were days where I laid in my bed just crying. It was an emotional roller coaster, really, because you have to do a lot of healing. A lot of us, we're closed off, and we have our hearts kind of closed off because we've been hurt before. So that was one of the first things that my star family told me I needed to do, was open my heart and work on healing my heart. So they helped me heal traumas from childhood, from past lifetimes. So the emotional aspect was definitely a roller coaster. Also physical symptoms, headaches, feeling dizzy, issues sleeping, or sometimes feeling like all you can do is sleep. There's a ear ringing, your ears ringing, things like that. So there's like a bunch of different symptoms. And yeah, I experienced a lot of them.
Well, so in other words, the emotional cleansing is a must-have in order to purify our bodies and get to that, as I mentioned before, level of vibration in order to understand these messages.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's why I called it boot camp, because you're just diving all in.
And I assume you're very curious to ask them questions and find out as much as possible, not only about yourself, about the Earth and, other planets. So usually what type of questions do you ask them?
Well, so in the beginning, they were kind of giving me information, some of it about our history, some of it about just the different types of beings out there, how our reality works. And then now it's more, some of it is still on that, but a lot of it's personal development, how to make me the best version possible. So they helped me a lot with personal development. But in the beginning, they taught me about how time is an illusion. The past, present, future are all happening at once. There's all of these different dimensions that are layered on top of each other. We have beings standing all around us right now. A lot of the time, they're just in another dimension, so we can't see them. And I've caught some of them on camera because the camera can pick them up, but our eyes can't see them. So many things. A little bit about our history on Earth, galactic history, things like that.
And based on without giving examples, how much of what we know is true and how much we have to relearn in terms of history?
Basically all of it.
I was afraid you're going to say that.
Yeah, so what I discovered, I was shown that I had a past lifetime. I'll give a key and a really big clue to a really big part of our history. So have you heard of Atlantis?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so Atlantis, Lemuria, I discovered that those were real. I discovered that I was there, and a lot of us that are on Earth right now, not all of us, but a pretty good amount, the people that I do sessions on, I've discovered most of them have either been in Atlantis or Lemuria before, and that was around like 12,000 years ago, the Great Flood. So those types of things we have right. The mainstream is still like, pushing against that and doesn't want to believe it. But there are some people who are pretty close to the truth. They're still missing pieces though.
Yes, in fact, I had 2 interviews with Tom Moore, who also he's a contactee and gets tons of messages, and he wrote 3 books on this subject, Atlantis and Lemuria, and we discuss in very detail about his experience in his past lives on these 2 pieces of land, and he's not sure that they will resurface. I interviewed other people who they think they will both resurface, or at least one of them, to prove to us that of their existence in the past, as you mentioned, 12,000 years ago. So indeed, it's a very interesting piece of Earth history which was hidden from us.
Yeah, and then we got to figure out why did that happen, though. There are some theories, but Atlantis was corrupt. There was corruption that was spreading through Atlantis. So we have to make sure that we don't do the same thing again.
In a way, from what I heard, it was based on, again, power, corruption and power. And right now, what we see at a different type of level is corruption and power. So in the end, the effect might be the same. Unfortunately, or fortunately, maybe those our brothers and sisters, galactic brothers and sisters, can help us avoid making the same mistake and remove those who are looking for more and more power.
Yeah, definitely. And that's been a big thing in the sessions that I do. If Atlantis and Lemuria come up, a big part is healing that, because we're creating those same patterns, or just, and then kind of like or you can go into like the victim mindset, or just the trauma from the whole civilization just ending all at once. That's got to be very traumatic. So that's a big part. We're healing that right now. And if anybody feels drawn to Atlantis or Lemuria, I highly suggest focusing on that, doing a meditation on that. That will help you. Because a lot of the time we're carrying patterns from these past life traumas that are negatively impacting our life now, and we have no idea.
Yes, I discussed with other guests about the humanity's trauma, which we have individually, we have to release, and then collectively, based on the event you just mentioned as an example. So when you talk to them, did they reveal if their location is on Earth, or they are just hovering in space only?
So they've shown me, gosh, I feel like they're all over, honestly. I think that some of them are on Earth and so they've shown me that there are ships basically all throughout the sky, but they're cloaked and in another dimension. And I know some of them are stationed in our solar system, I believe near Saturn. I've received other messages. There's even beings. Apparently, most of the planets in our solar system are actually inhabited in some way. It's just in a dimension where we can't see it unless they want us to see them. Yes. So, they're basically all over the place.
And going back to Lemuria, I recently read Telos. I don't know if you heard about this, but there is a city underneath Mount Shasta, and it was built as a replica of Lemuria, or the biggest city of Lemuria at that time. So that would
Yeah.
be interesting to see them coming out.
Yeah, I've heard that they have come out. They were coming out, but now it's kind of like it's a bit dangerous for them at this time. So they might do it every now and then, but you're only gonna see them if they want you to see them. But yeah, I've been to Mount Shasta and I had amazing experiences there where Telos is. I highly recommend it. And I've met some of the inner earth beings. I've actually had some of the inner earth beings. So we're connected in some way. This goes back to my Atlantean heritage. So a lot of the Atlanteans and Lemurians, they either died, some of them left the planet, or they went under to inner Earth to escape. So I have a connection with some of these beings through that lineage, through history. And I've had them appear in my room before, but I couldn't. They told me to go lay down to meditate. They do a lot of energy work on me. So I got that telepathic message while I was working. I was like, okay, so I go lay down, and then suddenly I feel these beings around me and all in my room, in each corner of my room. And then I couldn't see them, I think, because they didn't want to freak me out, but I felt them like right next to my face. Like if you hold your hand next to your face, you can feel that. That's what it felt like. And suddenly I feel them moving their hands up and down my arms and up and down my body. It was insane. So those were inner earth beings that were here. So they come out to play sometimes. You can connect with them or make contact with them too. Meditation helps a lot.
Do they help you when you do healing for other people?
Yeah.
That's nice. And did they mention any time frame for them to reveal themselves officially, let's say?
Yeah. So I asked, this was probably about a year or 2 years ago. I asked the light blue Lyran star family I told you about, when will I have the chance to be face to face with you, boots on the ground? When will you be boots on the ground openly? And I got the response the 2030s. So sometime in the 2030s, but I think disclosure is going to happen before that. I think 2025 in the next year, 2 years, we're going to have like very huge leaps in disclosure. And then 2030s, I think we'll probably actually have aliens openly on the ground with us.
Yes. And we can invite them into our homes and serve them dinner. That would be amazing. Is these days astrophotography still your main focus, or you just keep to contacting them and healing and offering your services to humanity?
Yeah, so things have changed. I still like going out and stargazing. I used to be with my camera every single day, but now they've had me more focusing on the meditation and the healing aspect of it. So I do live activations. I channel activations every Sunday on my YouTube channel, and people have these profound experiences, or they might meet their star family or see these UFOs. So I focus more on that, healing, teaching, and I still do that occasionally. But yeah, I make contact with them pretty frequently, so that they help me through this whole thing.
Nice. And your before these encounters, your astrophotography was done mainly in US, not in a different country, correct?
Yeah, I'm in the United States.
Yeah. And what experience did you have when you visited, let's say, Sedona?
Sedona is pretty wild. So the experiences, well, I stayed with a friend, and I can't say too much, but his friend worked at, I believe, Area 51 or something like that. No, an older gentleman, and stayed with him for a few days. He's very connected with the Lemurians and inner Earth beings. I felt them and could even see them standing behind him sometimes. So that was pretty magical. The energy is very intense there. That was right outside of Sedona, and it just felt very healing, very peaceful. It was a beautiful experience. And then for the second half of the trip, we went into Sedona and stayed in an Airbnb. And the energy is crazy. Definitely saw many different types of beings. but also on the fall equinox, we had something negative happen. So that just, that was pretty wild, because in these high energy vortex places, if you're not specific, or if you don't create sacred space around you, we accidentally let in some negative beings in Sedona. So we had to clear that up and close that portal. That was a lesson learned. But yeah, so it was awesome. It was also a roller coaster. If you go to Sedona, prepare to have just very intense experiences, and you'll probably feel, you might purge a lot of emotions. You might have amazing spontaneous healings. You might have contact experiences. So yeah, I like Sedona and Mount Shasta. Those are my two favorite high energy places.
Yes, and on top of that, you have to have a knowledgeable guide who will take you and protect you, as you said, just in case something unexpected shows up.
Yeah. So the first house that we were at, it was so protected. The beings, you could tell the beings were all around it, so protected. And then usually I always create sacred space, and I do, the whole protection thing. But I guess I had gotten comfortable from being at the other house. We didn't do it that night, and I learned my lesson pretty immediately.
As long as you send them back right away, that's fine. So
Yeah, we did. Both of us had me and one of my roommates had an experience. So we both experienced something negative as we were sleeping, and in the dream state also. But yeah, we got it all cleared up.
That's good. Lily, most of us are on a spiritual path and a different level of consciousness. How can we discern when a message comes from either our higher self, our guides, or from the ego, or as we just mentioned, other less friendly entities, leading us into trouble, of course?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I learned the hard way through this. So what I've learned, and I know my star family was right there watching the whole time, and they would let these things happen to me so that I could experience them and then teach other people how to not have that happen, or how to do it the right way. So number one, being very specific with your intention. So intention is so powerful, and especially vocalizing it is very powerful. So let's say you set the intention, I would like to speak to my higher self, or I would like to speak to my cosmic family of the highest love and light. So you're very specific that you want the highest frequency version, and you ask for help. I'm asking my higher self for assistance. So now that you're specific, like if you were to just say my guides, you might have some guides who don't have your best interest in mind, or some beings that are kind of wandering around. So I'd say make sacred space, keep your space clear. You can do sage, you can put crystals, just kind of keep it tidy, keep the energy up. Visualizing a white light around you whenever you go to open communication or meditate, and you can visualize a bubble. I also really like to call on the archangels of north, east, south, and west. So then they protect each direction. I believe the Native Americans did that too.
Yes.
So I found that to be incredibly powerful. So once you have the space cleared and your intention is specific on what you want, that alleviates most of the issues right there. So then that's because we have free will. So what we want is what we get. We just have to be specific, because the universe is always listening too. And to tell the difference between your ego, so something coming from the heart will be your star family or your higher self or your source, something light and from the heart. But if there's kind of an internal struggle, or you're going back and forth in your mind, or you have just fear, that's coming from your ego. So just kind of checking yourself and saying, where is this coming from? Is it coming from my heart, or is it coming from my ego?
Yes, and as you mentioned, being specific means that we are not being tricked by other entities which can pretend that they are someone else, which we expect to be, and can even ask 2 or 3 times that, are you who you say you are? And in the end, they will have to kind of reveal themselves and we can be in the clear, if I can say so. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So sometimes, since I receive a lot of visions, sometimes it'll keep me up at night. I'll be trying to go to sleep, and then suddenly I see a face of a being or some sort of energy. And if I'm ever not sure about who it is, you can always ask, "Are you of the light?" And then say, "If you're not of the light and not here for my highest good, then you have to go." Just be very firm in that.
Yeah, very simple but effective advice. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Lily, I talked to some of my previous guests about activating additional strands of DNA. What is your approach to this essential aspect of ourselves?
Yeah, so DNA activations is one of my favorite topics, and that's actually one of the first things that the ETs started showing me. Before I was even meditating, before I knew, I was very, very baby at all this, very new to all this. And they started meeting with me to help activate my DNA. So for that, and I've even put together like a whole kit, a DNA activation kit with like channeled sessions that and instructional videos and all of that. Being specific again and asking and setting the intention is going to be like number one. So then you're showing the universe, this is the way that I want to go. Affirmations, I would say, I would write it on Post-it notes. I am activating my DNA. And I would just repeat that in my head as I'm going to sleep. I would say that. I've made videos on DNA activating affirmations. I have a video on my YouTube channel if anybody wants to check that out with all the affirmations that I used. So you're basically reprogramming your mind and your body, and you're talking to your cells. Our cells are listening. Our cells are intelligent. So you basically just ask them and tell them to activate. And then it starts going in that direction, but just be consistent with it because it's a bit of a process. DNA activation meditations can help you go leaps and bounds, really, if you just spend some time on it. Really just have to spend some time. It's happening automatically as the frequency rises, but if you really want to focus on it, you will be amazed at the results you will get.
And how many DNA strands are we allowed to activate now or have access to activate now?
Not too long ago, I received a message from them that a lot of us are on 5 or 6 strands. So I think we may probably be able to go up to the 12, the full 12. It's just going to take a bit of time. But those who are actively working on their spirituality and working on themselves, we're already starting to get, kind of like halfway there. And if you see what's going on in the world right now, we're getting to like the nitty gritty. Things are ballistic. So that's kind of a good sign. Things are like we're getting to the climax here.
Yes. And this activation will contribute to not only our health, but mainly to our increased consciousness. Is that correct?
Yeah. So your consciousness expands. You can understand and perceive things that you would have never been able to do before. You'll develop new psychic gifts and abilities. You'll be able to sense things better. You'll be able to communicate better with guides or beings, whoever you choose. So that will increase your abilities. So you'll activate other unique gifts and abilities like healing. So you'll be able to heal yourself better and heal others more easily.
Yeah. So we're talking about the events unfolding in the world these days. And in my opinion, and in fact, other people's opinion as well, those in power and those in the dark behind them not always use the trust and the laws of the universe. They kind of tricked us. So because they didn't follow these rules, do you think the ETs and the beings from other planets are allowed now to have a major intervention and somehow put a stop to what's going on and increase the consciousness of the guys who are in power and allow them to see the destruction they caused?
I don't know how many will be able to see, what they've done. I think some of them are too far gone. But like some of the politicians. But yeah, so it's on a very individual level right now. So this really started like even more so badly when President Eisenhower in the United States, apparently there was a deal made with some of these negative beings. So a group of beings, Majestic 12, I believe the group was called in the United States, they basically made a deal, and they probably made deals with other governments around the world to trade technology and knowledge in exchange for, I don't know what the negative ETs, they can do their manipulation, they can abduct people sometimes. So that was kind of like the free will right there. Like they made a deal on behalf of all of us, which is not fair. And I've been very angry about that. Sometimes I do get angry about it, but then I see the bigger picture. So it's on a very individual level. So you can ask the beings, these positive beings, yes, they can intervene on your behalf or help you and help out, but they need your permission now. So it's like becoming aware that you have that choice and that option. That's why I always say, like, first step in all this is ask your star family of the highest love and light to assist you. That's like step one. You're asking, you're saying, okay, I'm allowing and help. And then as more people do that, things are just going to go a lot more smoothly, I think. But the whole world is not ready for ETs yet, but we're getting there.
Yes. And what is the message you received regarding the adjustments of Mother Earth in this time period? We see some weather manipulation, we see more sun action, geomagnetic field is weakening. Did you receive anything in particular to this subject?
Not so much specifically that. What I've been focusing on recently is clearing out the ley lines, the ley lines around the earth that a lot of the sacred sites are on. So I've been traveling to different places like Sedona, Mount Shasta. We have a Kokia Mounds, which is the most ancient, oldest, largest city in North America. I live right by it, and it was a sacred site. So I'm going to these different places and clearing the earth because the negative forces or negative energy has kind of like tarnished the whole thing, and that's affecting everyone. So that's what I've been doing, going around clearing that out and then activating. So the sacred sites in these new, like these vortexes and things around the earth are starting to activate and raise the frequency faster. So that's been my focus on it. I'm not sure about the other stuff. I know there's a lot of manipulation going on right now, and you've got the chemtrails, the chemicals that they pour on everything. I know Star Family has been helping to clear up some of that and clean up some of that. But yeah, so that's more of like what I know about the earth right now, what I've been focusing on.
Yes, I interviewed other people who are going around the world physically to clear the ley lines and activate portals, and each of them go at a certain time, one after another, clearing another level of energy. So that's beautiful, and thank you for your efforts.
Yeah, of course. And for anybody watching or listening right now, if you feel intuitively just called to go visit somewhere, go do it. It can even be a certain park or somewhere that's only an hour away from where you live. Your energy and frequency might be needed there to clear things on even a more local level.
Yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. What are the other than what we discussed, any other projects you are working on, maybe not this year, for plan for next year, which my audience will be interested in?
Yeah, so I just finished the DNA activation kits recently. So I worked on those for months. I've got 9 channeled sessions in these kits, instructional videos, subliminal messages you can listen to as you sleep. So those, basically a whole kit on how to activate your DNA. I just finished those recently. What's coming up for me is more speaking engagements. So I'll be speaking at a Mount Shasta conference in July 2024. I'm also going to be doing a retreat there. And then there was one other thing. Oh, yes. I'm starting to work on my first book on how to make contact with extraterrestrials.
Interesting, very interesting. And I know maybe you also know Mark Sims, and he was a self-made millionaire who was totally against what he, in fact, he didn't believe in UFOs, ETs, beings from the other worlds. And just for fun, because he was bored, he went to a 1 week retreat in the desert with a gentleman who was doing this type of events. I can't remember his name, but he was famous.
Dr.
And
Greer?
yes, yeah, thank you. And by the end of the session, the workshop, he was able to see a spaceship, and since then he gave up everything else, and this is all he's doing.
Yeah.
Quite interesting.
It changes your life. That just gave me chills. There's nothing better than having your own experience. Once you have your own experience, it changes literally everything. So
Yes.
that's my mission, is to help other people have, whether it be with a UFO or it be something more internal, more of a spiritual experience. That's my main focus right now, to help as many people be able to have that experience and teach them, the basics of how to do that.
Yes, and the more I talk to people like you who had first-hand experiences, I realized that DNA activation and healing ancestral trauma are two of the most important things in our life if we want to go forward spiritually and open our chakras, third eye, and connect with our star family and higher self and all the other beings.
Right. And then they can help you do that. So you just have to ask. It's so basic, but so have you heard the saying? It might be from the Bible, I'm not sure. Ask, believe, receive. Like step
Yes.
one, ask, believe, receive. That's literally it to get the ball rolling. Ask your star family to help you activate your DNA. But yeah, you're right. That's DNA, number one important thing. And then also the healing, top two. I agree with you 100% on that.
Thank you. And one question I think a lot of people will be very curious to find out how it is to work and interact with Jesus, with Yeshua.
Well, at first it blew my mind because I wasn't even sure if he existed at the time. And then he came to me. It feels amazing. There's just a very peaceful presence about him, and also just like bright gold light. It's hard to explain. Just amazing. It's an amazing experience, and anybody can work, with Jesus if you want to focus on that. The first time he came to visit me, he told me that we were connected. So some of us actually have bloodlines that trace back to that, which I thought was very interesting, or Mary Magdalene. So seems to be our bloodlines are very, very important too. And then he told me that we would be activating Christ consciousness within us, within all of us. So that's the return of Christ that the Bible prophesies about. It's through us. It's just an amazing experience every time I connect with him. He pops up every now and then.
Yes. Thank you for sharing about the second coming of Christ, because I've been preaching this type of concept for a long time and trying to explain people that this is what you should expect, not necessarily a physical appearance, right, but a much more spiritual one. So yes. Thank you. Lily, we are approaching the end of the interview. Any final thoughts?
We're just living in very, very, very exciting times, very disruptive also on the outside. So I would just say, don't focus too much on what's going on out there. The media is just lying and trying to get, just avoid fear as much as possible. Focus on your heart space, focus on your spirituality, your healing. That's how we're going to heal and change the rest of the world, is by focusing on us and looking within each one of us. And then it creates a huge ripple effect that changes everybody. We just need 10% of the population to awaken, and then that will be enough to shift the entire planet. It's called the 100th monkey effect, if you want to look into that. So yeah, I think very exciting times coming. Just kind of buckle your seatbelt and focus on your DNA activation, your healing. Ask to connect with your star family, and just amazing things will happen.
Lily, thank you very much. And everyone, you heard Lily, throw your TVs away, just go inside, read the right books, and meditate, and everything will fall into place. Thank you very much. And you visit my website, get a copy of my book, visit spiritualinspired.ca, standalone website these days. And until next time, love and gratitude.